YouTube, how are you guys doing? Every time I say I'm not going to do another video, I end up, I be having thoughts in my head and I just want to let it out. But this is a more serious topic. I actually was going to just talk about black women in the workplace, but it made me talk about things that happen in schools and daycares that people may not be aware of. What prompted me to do this video was I just watched Renita Allen. She's really good. Like, her story times are really good. And she got a little bit serious and she started talking about when she was abused and molested in daycare. And the story was so touching and it was so sad because she was a baby. In daycare, you're a baby. Like, my first memory, my very, very, very first memory, when I was 3, it wasn't that great with my mom. Something I'm not going to talk about. But, and then I remember coming from church and my parents were taking too long. And I'm the same way now. Like, say what you got to say, I got to go. Work, when that bell, I'm clocking out. It's time for me to go. And church, I'm out. Like, that's just how I am. When I'm ready to go, I'm ready to go. So my parents was chit-chatting and I left. They were not watching me. A lot of baby boomers, they didn't watch us. With my son, I made sure I watched him very carefully. He was always holding my hand, like, right on up until he was 12 years old. I did not play that. But yeah, those are the memories. I only have 2 memories of when I was 3. So the fact that she could remember verbatim details of what happened to her in daycare is really sad, because that shows trauma. And this is a grown woman and she was tearing up and everything like that. And it made me think about my own experience when I worked in a daycare. And what I went through as an employee was so traumatizing. I would never work in a daycare. Now, my son went to daycare and he was a baby. And I remember my father was like, because after I gave birth, the job that I had, City Year, it paid for my child to go to daycare. So we found a daycare in the building and it was in her house and in her apartment. And so my father was like, my son was motioning like he didn't want to go. And so he was like, Crystal, this boy can't talk yet, but he was like, He's like, I don't have a good feeling about this. I said, okay, if you're available to watch him. Because I always was the type of person, I knew that my parents were reluctant. So I never wanted them to watch my son and feel overwhelmed, because they were the type of people to bring it up in my face. So, and just in general, ain't nobody supposed to watch your kids. You're supposed to provide child care. People get it twisted. Grandparents can help out, but it's not their responsibility. So I was like, well, if you're available to watch him, cool. And it worked out because City Year ended in June and I was home with him. And then I ended up going to trade school, but class was only 2 hours a day. So it was good. While I was in class, my father watching and stuff like that. But my first job was a daycare, and it was only 2 employees, myself and a Haitian lady. The employer was Haitian, and her daycare wasn't necessarily bad, but it wasn't the best. The pay was really low, and something happened because how I got the job was through a friend's mom. Her mom gave out licenses for daycares. So she didn't want the job because she was like, the pay low, whatever. I was like, I'm 18 at this point. I'm like, I need a job, whatever. So I started working there, and I'll never forget it. The address is funny because I literally work up the block from my first job. So the name of the daycare was Little Butterflies. It was on Avenue H and East 34th Street in Flatbush. I was never on time. I was always like at least 5 minutes late because it was so far from East New York. I had to take the A train to downtown Brooklyn and then the 41. Just too much going on. So my attitude was, she was paying me $170 a week and expected me to be there from 9 to 6 or whatever. And she had a daughter. And yeah. And then the second job that I had was called Hosanna Daycare, and it was across the street from where my parents lived on Drew Street. It was 765 Drew Street in East New York. And they eventually shut down, both of them. My friend was like, How Little Butterflies, she, got shut down. And then Hosanna Daycare, a lot of stuff was going on. So I was pregnant by the time I started working at Hosanna, but I didn't tell nobody yet because I felt like it wasn't their business. And I wasn't showing or anything. And it was this lady, I'll never forget, her name was Diane. She was just an evil witch. Like, she was, the way she treated me, the way she treated the kids. And I'm talking about it because I feel like you always have a Diane in every daycare. Because I've heard a lot of people who worked in daycares, they all went through drama. So it's not just me. These daycare centers, you have to be careful of where you send your children. Now, I was blessed to send my son to pretty decent daycares. And if anything was going wrong, he would have definitely told me, because my son tells me everything. That's how he is. He's he a little snitch, so, definitely. And I wanted to say to my parents out there, sometimes you may not know if your child's being abused, but look at a person that's an abuser, that's a part of their character. That's a demonic spirit. So that can't be hidden. So little things like they don't return your phone calls. If you're late with a payment, they're very nasty. Take note of that. Seriously, because if they're nasty to you in any shape or form, imagine how they treat your child. Because you can't convince me that a person that's an abuser, they're going to be nice to you and then treat your child like shit. It doesn't go like that. And I know that because I worked with a Diane. Now, Diane used to yell at kids. My neighbor, I felt bad because I never got a chance to tell her that this bitch was yelling at her little brother. And I'll never forget it. She was like yelling in his face. And, I didn't say anything. Me and her used to go at it. She didn't like me for nothing. I don't know if it was because she started actually treating me mean after she found out that me and her was getting the same pay rate. Because she asked me, she was like, how much you get an hour? And at the time, minimum wage was $7.50, and we were getting $9, and she'd been there a year. The daycare had just opened, and she was there before me, so she felt like, well, why are you getting $9? And she was like going hard because she wanted her dollar raise. She wanted $10. She was mad at the fact that I was getting $9. Yeah, I was a little thirsty. I was like, so I got me some pineapple juice. So yeah, she was just a horrible, horrible person. And she would yell at people, kids. It was just horrible with her. She was just miserable. I'm like, she was a mother. She used to, and this is like the worst thing that we all have triggers. And she would say to me, oh, don't talk to me like that. Talk to your mother like that. I'm like, if I talk to, first of all, that doesn't even make sense, because if I talk to my mother like that, what makes you think I'm going to treat you any better? And I used to say that to her. Like, listen to yourself. I said, well, I'm grown, and I don't let my mother or my father talk to me crazy, though I was 19 and pregnant. I said, so I'm not going to come to work and let you talk to me any old kind of way. So we will go back and forth, and she admitted it too to the owner, like we be going at it. And it taught me never argue in front of kids, because when we would be arguing, the kids would look at us, and one particular little girl, she's probably not grown, but yeah, she would be grown, because I was pregnant. My son is 14 now, and she was 3, so she got to be like 17, 18. But this little girl, she kind of blew my spot. She was like, you want mommy? She would come to my stomach And she would hug me right there. She's like, "You a mommy? You a mommy?" Basically, in her language, "You pregnant?" And when we would be arguing, she would come and hug me. That was her way of trying to calm me down. Because when I get angry, all of this, the veins pop out, and I'd be like, "You blah, blah." And I was so unprofessional. That was so unprofessional. And to this day, I regret it because, you can't do that at work. Like at work, you can't let people get to you. And I was 19. I was very emotional. I was pregnant. But my thing is, I'm not going to let you punk me. Like, that was me. She's like, "I'm 41 years old. I could be your mother." I'm like, "But you not my mama. And I don't let my mama talk to me like that. So who is you?" Like, we used to go at it. Like, it was like, "Row, row, row, row." That's all you heard every day, all day. I hated that bitch. Like, ew, if I see her in the street, oh my God. I hated her. And she hated me. And then she was Trini. She was like, "Don't talk to me. You talk to your mom and then don't talk to..." Like, bitch, I don't care who you... I'm from Trinidad. I don't care where you from. You have respect. You're in America. And if you can't have respect for people, shut your mouth. I hated her. I hate her so much. And she was rude to a girl named... there was a Spanish girl there. And her name was Jasmine. And Jasmine was religious and wore skirts. And I think she was a virgin, so she used to clown her for that. And then I remember telling the owner, I was like, "I'm young, but I don't think that's right what Diane be saying." And to me, that's like, is that not harassment? To clown somebody. She would just embarrass her, basically, and it was just crazy. Like, and then there was another woman by the name of Charmaine. Now, Charmaine was cool. Me and her got along, but she was cool with Diane. So I'm like, I can't be friends with you and you fuck with Diane, somebody who tried to get me fired, and it came out in the end. So we had a meeting. I'll never forget this. The kids were gone. Or no, the kids were napping because the lights was off and the kids were like dispersed into different areas for napping. And so we had our meeting, and no, this was after hours, because like there were no kids. So yeah, this is after hours, and she's like talking about her dollar raise, and the owner, her name was Alice Oki, she was like, "You're not getting a dollar raise." And then she fired Charmaine right in front of all of us, because Charmaine had the boy's name was Noah, and he was allergic to peanut butter. And she was like, "The second floor is your floor, and he went to the ambulance because of you. You're fired," right in front of us. And Diane was like, "Where's my dollar raise?" Da, da, da. And I'm like, "Just get you another job." So when that meeting was over, Alice puts me to the side and she's like, "Oh, you're not supposed to say that in front of an employer." I was like, it's freedom of speech. I say what I want. Like, what are you saying? Like, what? We not slaves? She always had a complaint. She always micromanaging. It was just too much stress. And my friend, we was pregnant together, and she was like, "Girl, just quit." She was like, "Girl, just quit. I'm home." I said, "I don't want to be home. I like to work and, I like to work and make money." Even when I was pregnant, I worked throughout my pregnancy. I left that daycare and I went on to City in September. And I left. It was too stressful. And I've met so many people that have worked in daycares, and they said the same thing. My homeboy wife, she worked in a daycare, and it was so stressful that she quit. She quit, and she didn't work for a while. She was in school for her master's anyway, so it worked out. But what she went through, I think, was so traumatizing. They didn't even want to put their firstborn in daycare. I remember that. So a lot of people go through a lot of traumatic experiences with these daycares. It's terrible. Like, I don't know what it is about women. Women just can't work together. It's crazy. But I'll never forget, like, That lady did not like me at all. You know, and my advice to anybody there of any age, if you don't get along with somebody, try to outweigh your options. Like the way I did, I went to another job. Or if you don't have that option, try to have some type of mediation. And it's never good to argue in front of kids at work. That's like very unprofessional. And then you're letting that person get into your skin. And that's not good. And another thing I wanted to talk about was I was doing security at a place called Common Ground. And Common Ground is a facility where people that are actors, recovering drug addicts, anybody from any walk of life that's trying to live in a building. So they call it Common Ground. And so there was this girl named, I think her name was some Keisha, LaKeisha Brown. Something with an Isha. And her last name Brown. She always used to say, oh, I'm 38, I'm 38. Me and her did not get along for nothing, to the point that I asked for a transfer. And I went to Steiner Studios. Remember I told you about Steiner Studios. So, we used to argue and go at it all the time. She was jealous of me. It was the mailman. He looked like, he was like chocolate thunder. He was fine. He was trying to holler at me. And then the maintenance guy, he was tall, light skinned. I remember his name was Richard. Was trying to holler at me. And she was jealous of that. She's very jealous of that. When I wasn't there, they would ask about me. Where's Crystal? Where's Crystal? They never asked about her. So you would think we was in high school. And I'm like, I don't even want them. Like, Richard was cool. I gave him my number. But we had one phone conversation and we didn't hit it off. So months later, he ends up giving my number to another coworker that I didn't like, some old rusty man. And I had to file a complaint on sexual harassment, because he texted me, come talk about I had a dream about you and all this stuff. I'm like, what? So I reported him to Human Resources, like, because you're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to text a coworker, I didn't give you my number, and then you gonna text me that? And, like, nah. And so the other girl, it was another Isha, and her last name was Kearney. And she was like, she lied on me. She lied on me and was like, Crystal gave him her number and da-da-da-da-da, because it was an investigation. It went to my previous supervisor. And so he was trying to get to the bottom of it. So she goes and she's like, Crystal gave, and the fucked up thing about it is, she was there with me when he was trying to holler at me. She sat right next to me, and I told him no over and over again. So for her to just twist the story and lie on me and say I gave my number to him, I just couldn't understand that. And I found out from another coworker. I seen her in downtown Brooklyn, and she told me the whole scoop. And I'm like, it was a little shocking, because Brown was the one who didn't like me. Brown was the one who argued with me all the time. And everybody knew she didn't like me. She didn't like nobody. But Brown wasn't the one who lied on me. It was the one who pretended to be cool with me. See that? It was the one that I least expected. But I kind of I wasn't too surprised, because the last day that I was there, she didn't even say goodbye to me. Like, I had an argument with Brown because she was bitching about Anderson being late, like 2 minutes late. Because the way some security is, you cannot leave your post until you're relieved. So let's say you're supposed to leave at 4 o'clock and your relief come at 4:10. You cannot leave work until they come at 4:10. Yeah, you cannot leave work until your relief come at 4:10. So that can be frustrating at times, especially when you have a bus to catch and you have shit to do, because some people take advantage and they purposefully won't come. But a lot of the times it's karma. Like for her, she used to come in late every day. She used to come in like 8:05, 8:10. So her relief didn't come till 4:05, 4:10. Like, she didn't realize she was reciprocating her karma. And so for me, I always left on time because I came on time. Like, I understood there's somebody waiting there for me. I have to get there on, so that's what made me be on time, is I have consideration for my coworkers. So I'm like, okay, I gotta be on time because I gotta relieve my coworker. And so for me, I didn't have a problem with people relieving me, because they like, yo, Crystal good. Crystal, yeah, she good. And that was word around the job. Like, I would never have my coworker sit there and wait. Because when 8 o'clock hit, I used to come before 8. Just because I think about my coworker. They like, yo, you good. They like, so, and I would put on the paper that they left at 8 so they didn't lose no money. They like, oh, okay, good looking out, whatever. And we would do that for each other. She didn't understand that. What you do unto others will be done to you. She didn't get that. So, and it was funny because when my son was in kindergarten, first grade, he went to elementary in 985 Rockaway Avenue. She became the supervisor and then got demoted. She was a supervisor in a building next to my son elementary. And I went in, I peeped in to see what the apartment building was all about. And it was Andrew, what was the name of the company? Andrew International. That was the name of the company. And they was like, they knew Brown, and she had such a horrible reputation of being nasty, just and it was crazy. And then my other coworker used to defend her like, oh, she's a single mom. I'm like, I'm a single mom too, and who she opened her legs to is none of our business. Like, that's none of nobody's business. The mistakes I made and the bed that I made for myself, for example. So I'm not going to come to work and be nasty because I choose to be a single mom. That doesn't make sense. Oh, she act like that because she a single mom. So is the rest of the world. She is not the first and she will not be the last. Please. She only got 2. I got 1. You got people with 5 kids, single mom. And they the nicest people you ever meet. That's not an excuse to be nasty. She's just nasty. And she admitted it before she had kids. She was a terror. She was worse. So that's just her being a nasty person. I hate when people make excuses like, oh, well, this person is nasty because of what they went through. Guess what? And I told my friend this the other week. I said, you cannot make diamonds without pressure. Right? Before a butterfly becomes a butterfly, it's first a caterpillar, right? It got to go through an ugly stage, right? If you put an egg, something I seen on Facebook, one of my friends from high school, I'll never forget it because it's so true. You put an egg and a potato inside of water and let it boil, right? It's going to come out a little different because it's an egg and a potato, right? But they still going through the heat. Feel me? So we all go through stuff. Every last one of us. But how you come out on the other side, that's who the fuck you are. Period. So if you go through stuff and you come out a nasty person, you're just nasty. That has nothing to do with anything. You're just a nasty person, and there's no excuse for it. I don't make excuses for people anymore. I used to. Not anymore. But yeah, we as black women, we just have to get it together. And it's unfortunate that in a lot of jobs, when you have all black women working, it's always some type of drama. And it's just sad. It's just really, I don't know what it is, but yeah. But yeah, to all my parents, back to the daycare thing, make sure you listen to your children. If your child says they make motions like they don't want to go, or they telling you they don't want to go, try to pay attention. And pay attention to the little things. Pay attention to the unprofessionalism. Pay attention to them not calling you back on an issue. Pay attention to all those little things. Now, when they get to school, they might say they don't want to go to school. But when they babies and they say, I don't want to go to grandma's house, listen. When they say, I don't want to go to that auntie house, that uncle's house, that daycare's house, you have to listen. Because children, when I say most, 95% of the time, they're not going to just say that for no reason. They're not. And those are my thoughts. Oh, also I wanted to add, I went to a school named Trey Whitfield for 1 school year, and they abused us. They used to get the rulers and tape it up and hit us for no reason. I remember I got hit for failing a science test. A classmate of mine got hit because she wrote in blue and black pen. That's abuse. Like, people don't want to call it what it is. That's abuse. And I'm quite sure that it affected every last one of us some way, shape, or form. And people don't realize it. But there were other things that they were doing that was unprofessional that my father picked up on. So I didn't even have to tell him that they were abusing us. He ain't like it anyway. He pulled me out and put me in another school for 8th grade through 12th. And it worked out, you know. But he paid attention to things, their unprofessionalism, them calling my mom and not him for different instances. So he was like, this ain't the school for you. Even when I first started and he paid tuition, they didn't call him to tell him that I could start. I missed like 3 weeks of school because they weren't communicating. So that was the first strike. They don't know how to communicate. You know, so like, I wanted to add that when you put your child somewhere and they're abusing your child, the unprofessionalism is going to come out. There's no such thing as a person being an abuser and they're going to have good character. Not at all. That's just like women who beat their wives. They could pretend all they want at work, but some way, shape, or form is going to come out. Because it's a spirit. It's literally a demonic spirit. So that's something that you can't hide but so much. People pick up on things. You being miserable. That's what I was saying with the lady Diane. I'm quite sure that her family and friends, if she had, well actually she never mentioned having friends. But, you know, she was just wicked, you know. So I'm pretty sure her family hates her. She never mentioned any family. That's the funny thing. She always just said her son, her son, her son. You know, and I think when she was saying your mom or parents, she ain't have no parents. So she resented me for that. You know, and then like, you know, she just hated me. And I hated her. Like, it was crazy. But yeah, pay attention to signs, pay attention to everything, because people slip up. And those are my thoughts.